Boy, I'll tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than hitting long straight drives, but not really feeling like I'm trying all that hard. But most golfers really struggle with their driver. So right after this, I'm going to talk about what I think are some of the key basic fundamentals to hitting it longer and straighter down the fairway. So don't go away. Hey, this is Steve from hititlonger.com. If you're new to my channel, then take a quick look at the description below. I've left links to a couple of free items down there. Number one, my ebook with tips on hitting the ball farther. And I also have a 30-minute video that will help to cure your slice. So grab them. Okay, so today let's talk about some of the basic fundamental things that are going to help you hit your driver better. The driver is definitely, for most people, the hardest club in the bag to hit. A lot of my students, they just simply, at least when I meet them, they have just simply put their driver in the bag, or they leave it in the trunk, or they leave it at home because they know all it's going to do is ruin their score if they pull it out. So let's cover the basics and see if we can't get you going with your driver a little bit better. So the one area of golf that seems so boring and mundane to people is in the grip, but you're not going to find very many golfers who consistently hit the ball long and straight who don't have a really good grip. I need you to pay attention to the fine details. First, I'm holding it in the fingers, the base of the fingers, and it's running across the second pad of the index and the base pad of the pinky. A poor grip would see it more in the palm, not running across the fingers. I've got the crease here, a very tight crease. I don't have a wide gap because I am squeezing my thumb against the side of my palm, creating a very tight crease that divides down into a V at the bottom. So you want to practice holding your hand in this position. And when it's on the grip, it's going to end up pointing between my ear and my shoulder somewhere. Okay, that's a good left-hand grip. The right hand is coming underneath like it's picking up a pail. And the crease will be tight as well. In this hand, it'll be pointing at about the same place between my shoulder and ear with both of those creases or V's. And I've got an extremely supple grip on this. Golfers that have a hard time hitting their driver tend to have a poor grip, and they tend to squeeze too much. Let's shake out the tension from the shoulder down. Let's not call this a grip anymore. Let's start calling it a touch pad that you just barely touch. So get started right with a good grip, and then we can move on to the rest of the fundamentals. Okay, let's check out the basics of the setup that will help you get ready for a good swing. So first of all, I've got the driver set down flat on its head. If I'm holding it by one finger, it will just sit in balance. So there's too many golfers that will twist it off of its balance like this, hence making the club face closed, and then we'll have to make an equal compensation on our way down to make it go straight every time. Very overlooked. Two fundamentals of the setup that you should never ignore are, I'm bending at the hips here instead of getting down to the ground by bending at the knees or bending at the spine like this. I'm going to bend at the hips with my back relatively straight. Doesn't have to be militarily so, but just fairly straight. And then I'm going to try to get my hips and shoulders parallel to my feet. So I want all the lines running parallel to my intended line of flight, as you're seeing the lines on the screen now. One last basic fundamental of the setup that many people do poorly is the correct distance from the ball with the driver. Now I'm trying to get to about a one spread hand like this, but too many golfers who are bad with their driver will reach too far out for it like this, and they'll have a two-hand or a three-hand span. This is a difficult project to get from 2 or 3 hands back to 1. But if you're ever going to be really accurate consistently on a day-to-day basis, it's a project you really need to undergo. The next basic fundamental that's really important to have, and if you're going to hit long straight drives, now that we've got our grip and our setup just right, something like this, is now getting the club started correctly. And we need that to be on an arc, very low to the ground, just like this. Notice that I've got the face of the club square to that arc. As I take it back, it appears from my perspective, hopefully yours too, that the club face is still pointing at the ball right now. That's a good checkpoint, is this first step 30 inches past the ball. You can practice this at home in the mirror once you're grip and squared up. Practice taking it away about 30 or 36 inches away from the ball on a subtle arc and very low to the ground. The two big errors in fundamentals that golfers will make will be a club that picks too high up in the air and too straight down the target line, or a club that sucks way too far back to the inside. Once you're going off on those two tangents, you see, it really starts to become difficult to route it back again, unless you're a Fred Couples or you're a Jim Furyk or Matthew Wolf, Miller Barber, Nancy Lopez. Those are all examples of people who did not take the club away in an orthodox manner. You don't want to be that 1 in a million golfer that can pull that off. So just stay within these confines and you'll have a lot more luck. So one more time. Low to the ground, sweeping like a broom for the first 24 inches or so, and arcing. Sweeping and arcing. Get that initial takeaway going, and there's a real good shot that other things to come will fall in place automatically, or certainly fall in place much easier. As we approach the top, we find a basic fundamental of the driver swing that costs a lot of golfers lots of distance, and that is in the length and width of the backswing. A poor swing for power will see a narrowing of the arc, or a collapsing of the arc, and will be far short of parallel, something like this, where the arms are in tight. You see a lot of bend in the left arm, and the upper left arm never really gets past the horizontal, or 9 o'clock from your perspective. A fundamental that will help you hit the ball much farther is going to be, how far can you displace the handle from its original position to where it is at the top? So we're talking about taking a measuring tape out and measuring how far can you get the handle displaced from its original location, which would mean that this is not displacing it very far in linear inches, but good. Here I've got it parallel or past. I've wound my shoulders to 90 or more degrees. I've got the left arm fairly straight, but not rigid and tense, more pushed out away from me. And I've got a full wrist cock at the top. So that is an outstanding way to use your fundamentals to get lots more power. Perhaps the biggest fundamental of the entire golf swing, in order to hit the ball long and straight, comes as the downswing starts. You can have some variety in the way you take the club back and the plane of the club at the top, anywhere from what we would call a flat backswing to an on-plane backswing to an upright backswing. And you can have some variety there, and you can get away with that and still on a day-to-day basis hit the ball long and straight. As we've seen, golfers who are all in the Hall of Fame have all had this variety. But what we can't ignore is the way that the body needs to start, as it is like the engine, the belly button and the rear end and the hips. We need to let them be the engine instead of trying to make the arms the engine. Try to either pull them down or start them first. But instead, let's relax the grip at the top of the swing. Let's relax the arms and see how little of activity we can make them have in terms of trying to pull. And instead, just shift the weight to the left like this and turn the chest past the ball like that. Looking at it from this angle. Now I'm going to leave my arm here, and I'm just simply going to shift my weight to the left and turn my chest and hips all the way past the ball. You see, now I'm basically at impact. I just had to put back with the wrist what I took out in the backswing. Now coming into the ball, the number one most important fundamental is hitting the ball in the sweet spot. Because no matter how fast you swing, if you've missed the sweet spot, then your distance is going to be poor. Again, this is not a game of effort and strength. It's better to be able to swing at a medium speed for you and hit the ball in the sweet spot than it is to swing your fastest and miss the sweet spot. You'll get more distance and accuracy hitting it in the sweet spot. Here are a couple of ideas to help you hit the ball in the sweet spot more. Number one, I'm going to try to keep my head as steady as I can during the backswing and the swing back into the ball. If I can do that and keep my head as steady as possible, like this, I can let it rotate a little bit this way. But what I don't want to do in the backswing is either raise up or sway too much to the right. Those are the two biggest errors in head position. And we're going to need to get back to about the same place we started if we're going to hit the sweet spot. Now the other idea or fundamental that will help you hit the sweet spot more often is that maintenance of the arc that we talked about. You'll see, if I were to put this right in my chest here and turn this way, you'll see I'm now maintaining the same width that I started with at a S. Let me try that from this angle. Kind of stick the club in my diaphragm. now and reach down the shaft as comfortably as far as I can. Turn all the way back and put the club back in my grip, and you'll see in this manner I have maintained the same width from my sternum here out to the grip. If I can maintain that as much as possible, going back and coming down with a stationary head, not a stationary head, but a steady head, reasonably steady head, then I'm going to line up that sweet spot right back where I started from. Now, another great fundamental, which will help you hit the ball farther down the fairway, in some cases up to 25 or 30 yards without having to swing any faster, is a good ball position. Now, I like an aggressively forward ball position because as I come back down into the ball, I want the club to bottom out about 5 or 6 inches behind the ball and then start turning upwards into the ball like this. So I'll need a little bit higher to tee to make that work because the club is going to be ascending. So instead of lining up the ball into the left heel, and especially not playing the ball in the middle of the stance, so if you're doing this, then you have really got a fundamental for driving long and straight really out of whack if it's in the middle. So let's get that way forward. I'll have it to the second or third toe of the left foot so that I can give the club enough room to reach its low point and turn back upwards again. We know now that on a 100-mile-an-hour swing, it's probably about 25 yards to do this poorly or correctly. Now, 25 yards is the equivalent of about 9 miles per hour of club head speed. So if you're just swinging at about 91 and someone else is swinging at 100, you can catch up to them with this one factor alone by doing this fundamental really well. Something that's very simple, but often done poorly by golfers who have a hard time hitting their driver, is just simply making a correct weight shift. And let's just boil that down to the simplest possible element, and that is that I'm going to start on a 2-foot balance, and in my backswing I'm going to move over to a right foot balance or a rear foot balance, and I'm going to allow my front knee to move towards the center of my stance. Now I've got most of my weight on the right foot, so call it a 1-foot balance. Before I reach impact now, I'm going to step over into a 1-foot balance on the front foot. Notice that I achieved the 1-foot balance or the front foot balance before the club hit the ball. Almost like I embraced and waiting for the club to fly through the ball at this point. So remember, 2-foot balance, rear foot balance, front foot balance. Now you may need to just hit some balls very gently in order to make this happen. A lot of golfers they might have a rear foot balance at the top of the swing, but then they might stay back or go even further back as they hit the ball like this. Now drilling this can be very difficult because it might make you hit a lot of poor shots at first. But if you could just take a soft half a swing, rear foot, front foot, left knee to the center, right knee through the center, and just practice that at home a number of times a day without a ball. You could even practice it without a club. It's like a dance from side to side, right foot, left foot. Then take it to the range, hit some balls gently. Don't expect too much in terms of performance on the first day, but slowly over time you'll get better at it. Okay, the last fundamental that we need to talk about is simply the idea of finishing your swing. I see so many golfers that I teach that are poor with their driver, or they don't hit the ball as long as they would like to. They tend to make short finishes cutting off the finish and not going all the way through with it. It's not like they're not capable physically. Now, you might not be physically capable. I mean, I have students who have Parkinson's, other joint replacement, other major issues, and so you might have to modify how you finish a little bit because of that. But for the most part, it's just about practicing getting there. So what we're looking for is the club to at least reach perpendicular to the intended line of flight. So from this angle, it would be facing the target with my hips and my chest, letting the club come around and rest up against my collar, pointing perpendicular to the direction I'm trying to hit the ball. The biggest mistake, like I said, is cutting off the finish, something like this, and people will stop very abruptly. Very common issue. What this is going to do is certainly cost you distance, because think of it this way. If you have a dragster that's going 0 to 300 miles an hour in 4 seconds, in a quarter of a mile, but you were to put barricades about 30 feet past the finish line, that car would be destroyed instantly into confetti, because it wouldn't be able to slow down in time with such a short runway. Therefore, that driver would instinctively let off the gas very early and also start putting the brakes on before they hit the finish line. Similarly, if you're stopping your finish here, it's as if you placed concrete barriers just beyond your finish line. If I have no barriers, or the barriers are a mile down the runway, I can still continue to speed up the club to its maximum acceleration and velocity about here, because the club, no longer do I have to worry about the deceleration phase. I have plenty of room to let off the gas and then start to slowly, smoothly hit the brakes until I finish touching the collar. Okay, and that's it. That is a really comprehensive list of the basic things that you need to do in order to get your driver out there longer and straighter. Hey, maybe it's not going to be 300 yards or even 250, maybe it's not even 200 yards. But if you can get your driver to where you're confident with it, you want to pull it out on all the holes where you should be, on all the par 4s and 5s, and you can swing away at it with some confidence. In fact, you might even look forward to teeing off rather than dread teeing off, because you don't know if you're going to be in that bush or that backyard barbecue or wherever your ball has been tending to end up lately. Just a little bit longer and straighter this month, this year. I hope you watch a few of more of my videos if you're new to the channel, as that's my forte, is trying to hit the ball longer and straighter off the tee. Check out more of my videos, and hopefully I can bump you up to the next level. Hey, thanks for watching my channel, and thanks to Golf Development Complex for providing the great scenery behind me. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, or maybe I'll see you longer down the fairway.